They say crime doesn't pay. Well, that's not always the case. Sometimes the score is so big, it's worth the jail time. And sometimes, you really have to hand it to these genius crooks who use meticulous planning, skill, and sometimes sheer luck to pull off some of the most spectacular heists ever. Hi, I'm Adam-Wilber, and in this video, I'm going to go through 10 of the most creative and death-defying robberies, heists, and burglaries of all time. You're going to be amazed at the ingenious ways some of these would-be crooks use to pull off the crimes of the century. Before we get started, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. I'm going to be working real hard to regularly bring you videos that inspire that creative spark inside of all of us. So let's awaken that gift together and make a little magic. Without further ado, here are the 10 most creative and successful robberies of all time. The Great Train Robbery, the UK, 1963. Perhaps one of the most famous robberies of all time, the Great Train Robbery inspired countless movies, novels, and TV series. The elaborate heist was a work of a 15-man gang led by a guy named Bruce Napoleon Reynolds. Using inside information provided from a source known as the Ulcer Man, Reynolds and his gang planned to intercept and rob the overnight Glasgow to London mail train. This 12-carriage train carried traditional mail as well as a carriage known as HVP, or High Value Package Coach, which carried large quantities of money as well as the registered mail for sorting. Usually the value of the shipment was around £300,000, but because the previous weekend in the UK was a bank holiday, it was estimated to be around £2.5 to £3 million. On the early hours of August 8th, the gang covered a remote green signal light with a blanket, and they used a battery to illuminate the red stoplight. When the train was halted, the gang quickly overpowered the driver and the rest of the staff, either forcing them to lay face down or handcuffing them together. Raiding all but 8 of the 128 sacks of HPV loot, the men took 20 minutes to unload the huge haul into waiting Land Rovers where they sped off to their remote hideout. While they did get away at first and they managed to split up their spoils, the law eventually did catch up with most of them due to forensic evidence and witness accounts. A handful of them served jail time, but a few of them escaped, only to be caught later on. To this day, the only known survivor is a robber named Bob Welch. Number 9 is the Dunbar Armed Robbery, LA, 1997. Known as the largest cash robbery in U.S. history, the 1997 Dunbar robbery is the perfect example of an inside job. Before the theft, the mastermind behind it, a man named Alan Pace, he got a position at Dunbar as a regional safety inspector. While working, he photographed and examined the company's armor car depot. He made close notes of their surveillance, alarms, and the routines of the security staff. Interestingly, just a day before the heist, and for reasons unknown, Pace was fired from his post. Though this didn't change the plan. Alan recruited 5 childhood friends, and after hanging out for a few hours at a house party in Long Beach, to establish their alibi, it was time to move. Slipping away, they changed into black clothes and masks, and then they hit the depot. Since Pace knew that the vault was left open due to massive amounts of money that was supposed to be moved, he used his key to gain admittance to the facility, and Pace used his knowledge of the security systems, the timing, and the shifts to avoid the cameras and then ambush the guards as they routinely took their lunch. In 30 minutes, the thieves loaded millions of dollars, $18.9 million to be exact, into a waiting U-Haul. Knowing which bags contained the highest denominations and non-sequential bills, he knew exactly what to grab, and he also knew where the recording devices of the security cameras were, so he located them and took those as well. They got away with the haul, but were later caught after one of the crew members, Eugene Lamar Hill, age 29, he gave a real estate broker friend of his a stack of cash. The only problem is, he forgot to take off the original currency straps from the bank. Number 8 is the British Bank of the Middle East, Beirut, 1976. On January 20th, 1976, 8 armed men associated with Yasser Arafat's Palestine Liberation Organization exploited the chaos of the country's civil war and broke into the British Bank of the Middle East in Beirut. Instead of using cunning and skill, the robbers used brute force, blasting through a wall that the bank shared with the Catholic Church, reportedly with the help of a bunch of locksmiths from the area. The group then cracked the bank's vault and plundered its contents, anywhere from 20 million to 50 million worth of gold bars, Lebanese foreign currency, stocks, and jewels. Today, the loot is valued to be more than 3 times what it was worth in 1976. That's if it's ever found. To date, no one has ever been charged with connection to the robbery, nor has any of the loot been recovered. Number 7, Brinks Robbery, London, 1983. The story of the largest gold heist in British history is part meticulous planning and part cautionary warning about the lack of honor amongst thieves. At 6:30 a.m. on November 26, 1983, a South London gang of 6 armed robbers, headed by Brian Robinson and Mickey McAvey, broke into the Brinks warehouse at Heathrow Airport, expecting to make off with about $3 million in cash. When the safe was finally opened, that expected pile of easily transported cash turned out to be 6,800 gold bars divided into 76 cases, as well as a stash of 100,000 worth of cut and uncut diamonds, all bound for the Far East. The group took 2 hours to unload the safe using forklifts, but were luckily aided by their inside man, an employee named Anthony Black. Black gave him information of weak entry points and instructions on how to disable the security. McAvey was caught attempting to launder large sums of money, while Brian Robinson was implicated by their right-hand inside man, Anthony Black. The majority of the gold bullion, however, was never recovered. Number 6, Northern Bank Robbery, Belfast, 2004. On December 19, 2004, a group of masked and armed gang members arrived at the homes of 2 Northern Bank executives, Chris Ward and Kevin McMullen. Posing as police officers to gain entry, they held the men at gunpoint and took their families into the forest. They were told to let a gang of thieves into the vaults the following evening, and if any tip-offs came through to the police, it would result in their loved ones being murdered. The underground vaults were opened at 7 p.m. Crates with cash began to be loaded into a waiting white pickup van. The haul included 10 million of uncirculated Northern Bank sterling banknotes, 5.5 million of used Northern Bank sterling notes, and 4.5 million of circulated notes issued by other banks. There were some other small amounts of currency, largely euros and US dollars. A few hours later, McMullen's wife escaped from the forest. Despite suffering from exposure, she managed to raise the alarm about 11:45 p.m. At this time, the gang had made its getaway. In the years that have passed, a long list of people have been questioned, and no charges have ever been laid. Number 5, the Bangko Sentral burglary, Brazil, 2005. Just before midnight on Saturday, August 27, 2005, 12 men in gray uniforms entered the Bangko Sentral in the financial and business heart of Brazil's biggest metropolis. They passed through the security check at the bank's underground checkpoint by identifying themselves as construction workers. Perfect disguise since the branch was currently under renovations, and the guards at the building had been briefed about people coming and going that night. They spent the following 10 hours breaking into 170 private strongboxes belonging to wealthy clients of the bank. Only 2 security guards were detained, one when the thieves seized the ground floor, and the other when he arrived in the morning for his work shift. 5 other men spent the entire night outside to keep watch. The crew left with cash, luxury watches, gold bars, sapphires, emeralds, rubies, and diamonds. The bank estimated that the haul was around 70 million US dollars. Of the 25 people thought to be involved, just 8 have been arrested, and only 10 million of that haul has been recovered. Several other suspects were discovered dead, victims of kidnapping, or disappeared off the face of the planet. Number 4, Securities Depot Robbery. Excuse the interruption, I'm just editing this at about 2 o'clock in the morning and I realized it's not Securities, it's Securitas. Without further ado, back to our regular scheduled program. UK, 2006. The largest cash theft in British history occurred on the 21st of February 2006. It began with the abduction of Colin Dixon, the depot manager of the Securities cash management company in Kent. A man in a fake police uniform pulled him over, handcuffed him, and drove him to a rendezvous where he was transferred to a waiting white van. Colin's family had also been abducted by other men posing to be police officers. At gunpoint, Colin and his family were driven to the depot, where staff were bound and left in cash cages, while a team of men in disguise, armed with AK-47, shotguns, and other weapons, ransacked over $83 million worth of British banknotes. Only a fraction has been recovered through forensic raids, and there hasn't been any solid leads on the masterminds of the operation, despite several arrests. Number 3, Knightsbridge Vault Robbery, London, 1987. On the day of the robbery, Valero Vici, it's spelled Viccei, and another man walked into the Knightsbridge Safe Deposit Center and asked to rent a deposit box. As they were being shown a tour of the vault, the pair drew handguns and subdued the manager and security guards. They hung a closed sign on the deposit center door and let in further accomplices. Breaking into many of the larger safe deposit boxes, the burglars took an estimated $98 million worth of cash, gold, diamonds, and artifacts. Viccei, again, I can't pronounce it, I do apologize. He was implemented in the crime due to a bloody fingerprint left at the scene. Several accomplices had already been arrested, so he fled to Latin America for a few years, only to be arrested on his return to serve a 22-year sentence in prison. Number 2, the Dar es Salaam bank heist, Baghdad, 2007. The Dar es bank heist is the second largest robbery in modern history, second only to another heist in Iraq, with thieves making off with nearly $300 million in US dollars. Information about the actual robbery is scarce, but according to police and local reports, 3 thieves dressed as guards simply wandered into the facility to relieve the outgoing shift while they plundered the vault to the mammoth amount of $300 million. Authorities weren't alerted till the next morning when bank employees returned to work only to find out the entire vault was empty. Number 1 is the Central Bank of Iraq robbery, Baghdad, 2003. At the top of the list, while it may not get top marks for creative ingenuity, it makes the cut due to sheer size and scale of the robbery. When American-led forces first entered Baghdad early April 2003, looters had already hit the Central Bank of Iraq. Troops found burst pipes and blazing fires, but the looters had been unable to penetrate the bank's main vault or access its deposits. It turned out, however, that it was empty. Someone had already made a hefty withdrawal from the building, to the tune of around $1 billion, easily making this the largest bank heist in history. 1 month earlier, 3 large trucks pulled up to the central bank, and for several hours, a steady stream of metal boxes filled with some $900 million in US $100 bills and $100 million in euros were loaded onto awaiting vehicles. The heist didn't require guns, explosives, or even violence, just a handwritten note with a signature of Saddam Hussein handed to the bank's governor, insisting that they needed to hide the money from the advancing Americans. In the years that followed the war, money turned up in many places. There was $650 million of it found in one of Saddam's palaces. There is reason to believe that some of it actually ended up in the hands of US soldiers. Cash discovered in another of Saddam's palaces also somehow vanished, looted by optimistic US soldiers. The United States convicted over 30 of our service members for the theft, with a lot of them caught trying to mail money back to their wives and girlfriends. So that's it, a list of the most creative and lucrative robberies of all time. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor. Make that little thumbs up turn blue for me. And please do subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button. It means the world to me. I'm going to be working really hard to bring you 2 videos every week to help inspire all things creative, innovative, and impactful. I'm Adam-Wilber. Until next time, friends, onward.